Submarine service. Let me see if I can advance. Oh, look at that dude. Check him out. Boot camp picture. He definitely has hair. Broken teeth. I joined the Navy with broken teeth. They didn't get fixed until I went to sub school. But I walked in off the street. I was that kid that studied warfare, weapons, airplanes, built every plastic model, and I knew that I wanted to serve. How many veterans do we have in here? The vast majority. Every one of you has their reason why you signed up. My reason was my country. Even at 18 years old, I wanted to support the flag. I took aeronautics. I took my first aviation class in '72. Everybody's, Bill, why are you not flying?
I'm just going to shoot you up a little more.
Oh, thank you. It's my best side. So, flying, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pilot, but I also wanted to serve on submarines. For some crazy reason, I watched all the John Wayne movies, and I literally told my recruiter that being on submarines was on my John Wayne list of things to do. So that's what I signed up for. Of course, you don't just walk in off the street and be on submarines. You have testing you have to do. You have, how do I put it, tests, psych tests, stuff like that. So it's a long ordeal to get started. I got through and I was assigned to the USS Queenfish. Your first boat is your first love. What was odd about it? And what's different about the submarine community? Everybody here, or a lot of you here, are veterans, and you served in your own particular way. And today I'm not degrading any of what any of our veterans have done. It's just I'm here to talk about the submarine service and why we were the coolest. When you walk on board as a new guy, you're looking on fast attacks, you're looking at 114 other people. Those 114 other people are looking at you. You're new, you're bright-eyed, you're going to make a difference. They don't trust you. They don't know you. They don't know how you were raised. They don't know what you're going to do in an emergency. They need to trust you. You need to build trust as the new guy. It's not an easy road to get your dolphins. Your dolphins, the submarine warfare insignia, is more than a year of studying every component on that submarine, even though it's not your job. If you say you sign up as a sonarman, you're going to be on the boat and you're going to listen for the bad guys and you're going to listen to whales making out, but still, you need to know the electrical layout. You need to know the ventilation layout. You may be trapped in a compartment and people are relying on you to shut this valve, to disconnect this breaker. You need to know where each and every valve, breaker, control panel, electrical panel, you need to know. And it's not easy. Not easy. So I served during the Cold War, Fast attacks and boomers is all we had. Today you have SSGNs, which are the guided missile, the Tomahawk throwing submarines. Boomers are your intercontinental ballistic missile submarines. They're big. The Ohio class is over 500 feet long. The fast attacks generally are smaller. And as you can see from this cutout, this is very, very generalized. I do have some pictures that I'll show you, but when you're on a submarine, there is no spare space. Every nook and cranny has something shoved in it. Repair parts have to be carried. Your food has to be carried. Your perishable food has to be refrigerated. These nuclear submarines, their limitation is food. They make water, they make air, and yet the crew has to eat. Once we fix that, nuclear boats can stay out for years. $651. You see the hull number there on the sail? That's the USS Queenfish. That's my first boat, my first love. This is a highly generalized drawing. This just gives you the basic areas. And you can tell that this print was made during the Cold War because the entire engine room shows no levels or pieces of machinery. We don't want those guys to find out. Notice the reactor compartment. Ooh. Yep. Guess what's in there? Nuclear reactor. Yep. Yep. Guess where you're sleeping close to? So we look at this berthing and the forward berthing. Yeah, you're looking at what? 150 feet? Plenty of distance if something goes wrong. Don't worry. Oh, diesel generator. That's our backup for the reactor. So in case we have a reactor scram, everything gets shut down, we still have electricity. And after the generator, we have batteries. So you want to talk about batteries real quick. Each battery is close to 10 feet tall. Each battery weighs over 1,000 pounds. There's 125 battery cells. And the voltage that each cell puts out is the same as a D-sized battery. That voltage is 1.5. But wattage. It'll put out that 1.5 volts for weeks. So that is the difference. The Los Angeles class, another Cold War veteran, a little bit bigger than the Sturgeon class. That was my first boat. Even though it was a little bit bigger, it actually had less bunks. They carried more equipment. The Los Angeles class came into being in the mid-70s. So how they were designed and how they were equipped, so to speak, was equipment that was designed in the late 60s, early 70s. The Sturgeon class, which we were looking at with the Queenfish, you have to remember that it was launched in 1966. So that equipment that was on that, much larger. I mean, between tubes and transistors. So each piece of equipment was larger. So with the Los Angeles class, we had newer equipment, newer ways of manufacturing equipment. So they stuffed more of it in there. Took out a few bunks. The Los Angeles class is faster, quieter, and more equipped. So that would be the difference between the Cold War fast attacks. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a blow-up of a wood cutout. This is more detail of what a sturgeon class looks like on the inside. Ah, yeah, the control panel. Those guys are driving a boat. So it's just like flying an airplane. The exact same principles. Here, he's got control of the the stern planes, which would be the elevators in the back near the propeller, and the rudder. He has control of the fairwater planes, which are on the older boats were up on the sail. Those were the wings that you saw up on the sail. He's called the diving officer. His job is to smack you in the back of the head if you make a mistake. But you can see ballast control panel. What I want to point out is there is no space. There is no wasted area. Everything is crammed full. And this is your home. Similar to living in a garage. There's no creature comforts. Only in crew's mess is there any wood paneling, and that's for morale. So,
hey Bill, is that a coffee cup hanging out there?
this here? No, that's a battle lantern. So, what's going on is that when you first come on board a submarine, the junior people, the fresh out of school people, they drive.
Really?
That driving is the most simple thing to do. Plus, you have a diving officer who's going to slap you. So, when you go into some sort of an emergency, they call battle stations, they call chemical spill, they call rig for collision. At that point, you have senior helmsmen take over. But while you're just tooling around, it's the junior people that drive. Because that is considered simple to do. This is just another angle. And this is a sturgeon class, what the Queenfish was. But as you can see, there's your battle stations, your diving, all your alarms are right there. That's what's going to be making the awoogas and everything you see in the movies. Battle lantern, not a coffee mug. And you can see that it has a red lens on it. That being said, when we are near the surface operating at night, we have the control room rigged for red. Red is the easiest color for the officer of the deck to be able to see outside the periscope with. So we're trying to keep his eyes where they're not focused by harsh, bright light. So rig for red. If you see it, I've seen it once or twice on like Star Trek or something. I'm like, oh, well, that's actually real, you know.
Move left.
All right, so you're looking at the same control panel. Well, not the very same. But here's a chemical drill that's going on inside the boat. So these guys will have somebody put that hood over them for them. It's not like you're going to say, okay, I'm going to just put it on autopilot and get dawned up. Somebody's doing that for you. This gentleman here, he's supervising over the drill. He could be the ship's captain. He's watching the board, the SCP, the ship's control board. But as you can see, the diving officer is suited up. The helmsman, the chief of the watch, they're all suited up. So they're running a chemical drill. Down in the torpedo room, a lot of faces I don't know, but this long, long green thing, Mark 48 torpedo. You might call it a Mark 48, and then the newer version is the Mark 48 ADCAP, advanced capabilities. So we watched all kinds of movies in the past, and the submarine was trailing a ship, and they shoot a torpedo, and it goes nice and straight, and oh, we missed, or the torpedo malfunction. Mark 48 torpedo. There it is with a blue cover over its, okay, key word. The blue cover is over its sonar. The Mark 48 torpedoes are smart. They actually carry their own sonar. They also trail a wire. So if we launch as a surprise launch, we won't have to do evasive maneuvers. We can push that torpedo out with compressed air, or we can also flood the torpedo tube and have it swim out. That Mark 48 is incredible. So the bad guys, they have a carrier, they're in a task group, you got destroyers on the outer, you got cruisers on the inner circle, you got the carrier in the middle. Our sonar systems are tuned to the point where we know via a sound library what ship is what. You don't just hear splashes in the water. What you hear is the exact tones for that particular ship. So we can say, oh, that's the Ivan. Oh, that's the Khrushchev. We don't have to say, no, it's a cruiser. We know exactly which one it is. And for the most part, the bad guys have their own sound library. But the reason I bring that up is because prior to launching, we can tell that torpedo what ship to hit. Not just go over there and hit something. We'll tell it what ship to hit. And it's stored in its memory. So I mentioned that there's a wire that trails. Yes, there is. That wire will stay fixed between our fire control computer and the torpedo. If we have to do evasive maneuvers, there's a good chance we'll break the wire. No loss. Breaking the wire, the torpedo already knows what it wants to hit. So you drive a destroyer in the path of that torpedo, the torpedo will literally go around it. That's not its target. That carrier in the center is its target. And it's going to go for that particular sound. So, the carrier launches countermeasures, our torpedo misses. That doesn't say, I'm done. That torpedo goes into hunt mode. And as long as it has fuel, it will circle until it reacquires. And it will stay circling until it reacquires. So it has its own sonar on board. So it's out there listening, pinging, and when it reacquires, that's it. It goes after it, as long as it has fuel. So losing the wire doesn't hurt the shot. So now that you have a wire, now that you, how do I put it, told the torpedo what to do, you don't have to face the target anymore. You can fire over your shoulder. Yeah, that sounds cool because it's a Tom Cruise Top Gun thing. Over the shoulder. So you don't have to be facing directly at that enemy ship. Bad guys. You can be facing away. So it's a medium value target. Fire and forget. Break the wire. Tell the torpedo what to do, what angle to start searching in, and it'll hit anything in that search area because you just said, just go. And you speed off the other way. Submarines don't have armor, and their countermeasures are limited. So you don't want to be caught.
How many of those did it carry?
All submarines carry a different amount. So on the Sturgeon class, we had 4 torpedo tubes, and we had about 30 torpedoes and special weapons and cruise missiles and countermeasures and all kinds of cool stuff.
How does the size of this one compare with the size of the earlier one you were showing with the cover and stuff?
Oh, this one's just a little bit smaller, but has the same electronics.
Okay.
Good question. You knew we were going to come to that. Nuclear reactor. So it's small, it's effective, and it's powerful. You're putting coolant in, and you're sending out steamed water. Steamed water turns the turbines, just like in a dam where you have water turning turbines. That's how we generate electricity. Now, the Los Angeles class and the Sturgeon class submarines are mechanical driven, meaning they have gears. Some of our newer boats, we're testing and developing electrical driven. So we'll have a Tesla class boat. But the point is that none of the reactor juice, water, comes out into where the crew are. That's our design, and that's how we stay safe. You've heard some other bad guys have boats that go down, radiation poisoning with the crew. You're saying, what happened to Bill's hair? No, that was something else. But looking here to the heat exchanger. So that heat exchanger is where we're going to take that boiled water, create steam, and go from there. Submarines have a backup for everything. We saw quickly the Fairbanks Morse. I'm sorry? Yes, it's a closed loop. Guess what those guys are doing? Yeah. Those three are running a nuclear reactor. That is what's called the maneuvering room. That is the controls point for the nuclear reactor. All those dials and switches is just like an old Jane Fonda movie. Yep. That's it. Yeah, please.
So what would their rate be?
As far as electrician, they would be machinist. So the Navy, what the Navy did was they had the same name for the rates. Like I was IC, I was Interior Communications. So there would be a nuclear IC person. And those guys, because they were probably radiated, they stayed in the engine room. All right, they had their own, how do I put it? They had their own, not clique, but they understood what each of them were doing. So they could fill in when it comes to reactor stuff. I couldn't go back myself and run the reactor. Not that kind of detailed cross training. Yes?
Did it harm them at all to be in the reactor?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. He probably had those glasses at the start. Yeah, right? No, on board, honestly, and all kidding aside, a year on a nuclear submarine would give you about the same rads as 2, 3, 5 X-rays. And that's a year on a submarine. So we're not exposed to much. Everybody wears a little TLD on their belt, and those dosimeters are read all the time. So we know what we're carrying. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else?
So those guys would be nuclear machinists, maybe?
Yes, or electricians, or so. Here's the Fairbanks Morse. This is the backup to the reactor. Now, if you remember, looking at this large diesel, it's called a Fairbanks 5 1/4 because each of the 10 cylinders is 5 1/4 inches in diameter. Huge. Its job is to generate electricity through that generator.
Is it loud?
Yes. And guess where they put it?
Right under you.
Right underneath for forward berthing. So when we talk about submarine life, remember that ship does not stop.
That generator don't run all the time though, right?
No, just an emergency. Or we'd all would have quit. Yep. So the submarine never stops. There's no day, there's no night. There is always something going on.
Do you kind of get claustrophobic?
No. I mean, they tested that. But to be completely honest, there are times when I do get claustrophobic. So if I am trapped.
See, I was on a surface ship and I don't know if I could live on a submarine.
You probably could for the first day. No, but it's you don't know what you have in your inner self until it's put to the test.
Is there a continual noise level?
Yes.
Sub on there?
Yes. We're the silent service, but again, with no night, no day, that sub is constantly moving. It's like a shark.
So you have 4-hour watches?
6-hour watches. So 3 6-hour watches, and that's how the Navy runs it. So let me give you an example. When I say no night, no day, no clouds, no sun, no rain, a constant 68 degrees, because that's what's good for the equipment. You have watch. You're going to do your job from 6 till 12 noon. At 12 noon, the second watch starts. Now that you're off at 12 noon, it's time to eat lunch. We're going to work on whatever equipment that we're responsible for. We're going to do our preventive maintenance. And that's it.
So you get 6 hours sleep?
If you can. And I say if you can because there's evolutions, there's operations going on.
I got one more question. Did you have your own bed?
Most of the crew did.
I mean, did they do hot beds? You know that?
Yes. Oh, I know about hot bunking. Yes. Most of the crew did have their own bed. That's why it was good to make rate fast. Right? So you are on from 6 till noon. The next watch, 12 to 6. The next watch, 6 to midnight. Guess who's coming back on watch? So you're starting your workday at midnight now till 6.
You don't really have any idea what time it is, right?
Mm-mm.
It just goes around.
It just goes around. So to this day, I can fall asleep if you tell me to go to bed. Doesn't matter if it's 12 noon. Doesn't matter if it's 12 at night. I go to bed, yes.
Did it take a while to adjust at first?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. You learn to see what they were cooking. And that told you. Mid-rats were all of the leftovers, midnight rations. That was all of the leftovers from the day. So mid-rats, you couldn't tell what time it was. This could be the dinner food. This could have been the lunch food. We didn't know. But breakfast, we kind of stuck with, you knew that there was eggs and there was steak and all that stuff. But the rest of the time, but you might not be up for breakfast. So your body says, whatever the fancy word for that clock is, your internal clock, I'm all jacked up. Have no idea. You go up to the control room, they're rigged for red. Well, are we near the surface or is it really night? I don't know. So that was one thing that you just gave up on. We're looking at a sturgeon class ballast control panel. Now, I had made mention that I was IC, Interior Communications. That basically translates to any way the boat can talk to you, I was responsible for. Not I. We had a division of IC men. And sometimes that division got up to 4 people. 82 systems. Here's your board. You're looking at what's open, what's closed. These dials here tell you what's in the air banks. Main air banks are here. Why do we point out the air banks? Because that's what's going to get you to the surface. That was your stern planes and rudder control, which with the flip of a switch can be switched to the other station, which would be over here. Your alarms again, the pink being chemical. Gauges are covered up because this ship is in port. And so back in the day when you could have visitors, they couldn't see how deep you can go, how fast you can go. Those logs were covered up. That's a gyroscope there. The trim panel. Just because you've got 7,000 tons doesn't mean that it's level. You definitely do not want to be skirting through the ocean like this. So you're going to move water around, and this is ocean water. You're going to fill your trim tanks and use that to level yourself out with. And you're also going to have your hover pump, which will, when all stop, you're going to stop and hover. Remember, you're in the ocean, so you're in 3D territory.
I got a question. You know, you see in the movies where the submarine goes down and sits on the bottom?
No, we had not participated in any of those events. I can safely say that. Because the ocean is deep.
I always thought that they found a nice sandy level.
Oh, yeah.
Spot with no rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you can find those sandy levels by looking out the window. So, no, what you're seeing is, I won't say completely fictional, but it's fictional. You're dealing with the continental shelf at that point. And there are some rare instances where you could actually reach the bottom. But nobody's submarine goes down 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet.
It's not the sea view, really.
No. And if you remember the sea view, I don't know who remembers Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Yeah. They would walk down the hallway, shoulder to shoulder, discussing stuff. I saw one episode where the sea monster was pulling the nuclear reactor out. I'm like, yeah, it's just like that. The sea view would catch fire every episode, right? And Chief would just use a fire extinguisher like there was no limited amount of air. And they would just go about their business. But of course, that was Irwin Allen doing all of that. And nobody knew any different. So I won't take that away from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, but oh my goodness, it's not like that. You've seen some pictures of the interior. You're just not walking shoulder to shoulder.
I mean, that control room was huge.
Oh, on the sea view. Yeah, okay. Here's the Parchees control room and the scopes. Not quite sea view material. Number 1 and number 2 scope. Number 1 scope was the attack scope. It had far less electronics in it. And the scope head was a lot narrower. So if you're stalking somebody and you're at periscope depth, that periscope wouldn't make a big wake in the water. Number 2, navigation, spying. Oh, I'm sorry, intelligence gathering. So the number 2 scope had far more electronics in it, and the top of the scope also had a radar ESM, electronics surveillance monitoring equipment. So we could intercept pings, we could intercept radios, we could find people. So that's the difference between the 2 scopes. This is a view of the inside of a Japanese submarine, and that's rigged for red. So your eyes quickly become adjusted to dark light. If you're going to be using the periscope at night, you don't want your pupils dilated. You want to be able to see. So we're depending on that officer of the deck who has control of the scopes to be able to see. If there's some sort of an emergency and we have to surface real fast, we might not hear a fishing trawler. We might not hear a pleasure boat with our sonar, especially if they're just trolling or sailing. So he's got to be able to use the scope and take a quick look around. I wanted to add this. This photo was taken on a carrier because you can see how tall the ceilings are and all. But this represents submarine life in a way that this is basically your bunk. Everything that you are bringing aboard fits in that tray. And this part folds up so you can get to your clothes, your toothpaste, your peanut butter, which you know you're going to sell later on. All the stuff. So this represents basically letting you know that the ship doesn't stop. That's your privacy curtain. So when it is time to go to bed, that's what shuts out the rest of the world. So there's going to be lights out in berthing. There's going to be people with their feet sticking out, snoring. That was never me, but that's what goes on. Look at these guys. We talked about boomers being much bigger. Look at their bunks. And these are in between missile tubes. Look at this. You might as well put Weston on there.
You have to be a certain height.
A certain height? No. No.
But you probably wouldn't have those 6'4" guys walking.
Oh, that would hurt for them. That would hurt. They would probably, all seriousness, be recommended or, persuaded, but there is no main height requirement.
In World War II there was.
Oh, much smaller boats. Yeah. So, yeah, you'd be hitting your head a lot.
Going on, rack going 3 high.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Was
So,
on there before high.
I'm sorry?
The guy in the end there, his boat don't look like it's that long.
Yeah. Well, his feet are going
There was a new one.
past the head of this guy.
Yeah.
Makes good smells.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I just want to point out that all of my years on submarines, I never stank.
How often would they let you take a shower?
Showers. Ha. Remember I said you can make your own water on a submarine? Yep, you sure can. And you had potable water tanks, clean water tanks, drinking water tanks. Making your own water does one thing. It makes noise. You're operating a piece of machinery that you don't need to. So showers, far and in between. And once showers were open, they were submariner showers.
5 minutes?
Not 5 minutes of water? Oh, they would put you in a tube. So you would get in, turn the water on, turn the water off. Grab that soap, hit all the areas that you can, turn the water back on, turn the water back off. So due to the low humidity on submarines, because there's precipitators and ventilation fans going all of the time, without a towel, you would be dry in 15 minutes.
At 68 degrees.
Mm-hmm. So, but showers were a luxury.
So you guys probably got pretty brave after a while.
No, we were submariners. You're thinking of the Marines. Sorry. No, yeah, you can only do what you can do.
How long would be a typical cruise then?
Oh,
Would you be out?
okay, so I'll reiterate that it was the Cold War, the height of the Cold War. President Reagan was in office. We were building a 600-ship Navy. We had the Star Wars program going. We had no schedule. You may do, we'd always pack out, load out 90 days worth of food. And we had no schedule. Numerous times we saw the buoy for Papa Hotel. The buoy, Papa Hotel, stands for Pearl Harbor, and it marks the entrance to Pearl Harbor. Numerous times we were on the surface, heading home. Yay! Flash message. And so we would turn right back around. Somebody was seen or suspected somewhere. Go find them.
Replenish at sea?
No. Mm-mm. No, that's surface ships. You guys probably got mail. Yeah.
So what did you do about food?
Ran out. No, we started rationing ourselves. So,
But if you thought you were going in,
yep, we started rationing ourselves.
not much left.
No, so milk is long gone, stuff like that. Eggs, long gone, powdered. I made a joke about peanut butter because peanut butter came in these number 10 cans, and it had a federal stock number on it. Government issued peanut butter. Oh, you would bring Skippy, Jif, and sell spoonfuls because that federal stock number on that peanut butter meant nasty. Inch of oil on the top, stir it up good, no. So there was no vending machines, no Coke machines, no workout rooms, no exercise bike. We drank Kool-Aid, what we called the bug juice. That was our main staple. Or you went to powdered milk. But our main staple was the bug juice, was the Kool-Aid. That was until you came in and saw the cook using the bug juice in the dry powder form to clean the pots and pans. Powdered milk didn't seem that bad. You're like, wow, okay. But that was our main staple. Here, speaking of cooking, there you go. There's the galley. We had a deep fryer. And the deep fryer, obviously was full of oil. But only with the captain's permission could you turn it on. Because the captain takes responsibility if that hot oil and the ship starts to maneuver, you got hot oil going everywhere. So only with the captain's permission could you turn on the deep fryer. But the cooks on submarines were making food for 115 members of their family. Not like a carrier who's making lunch for 6,000 of their closest friends. So our food was really good. The Navy took care of us in that manner. Steak, lobster, and then you get to the point where you start to complain. It's Friday, no fish? Really? You get used to some things. There's cruise mess. We're enjoying a meal. But that is an example. Look at this dude. Christmas dinner. I mentioned the wood paneling. Oh, look, there's an actual queenfish. But we're enjoying Christmas dinner.
Was there a separate officer's mess?
Yes, there was. I didn't have pictures of that because I couldn't find them and we weren't allowed in there. So, before you get all excited, who's the blonde? That's me. We're celebrating crossing the equator, and we had King Neptune's court. So I presided as the royal judge, and that's me making my way up to the bench.
Nice hair.
Thank you. Made it myself. Majestic. I have had this honor. Of riding up top. Look out. And it's hard to describe that this tube, here's the rudder, goes on and on. You are insignificant compared to the ocean. That ocean, once you get into your realm, that ocean wants to kill you. You have respect for the ocean, for those you serve with. You're out there. 2 Los Angeles class submarines tied up together. Notice the Fairwater planes. This marks this as an older Los Angeles class. This is an improved Los Angeles class. Notice the Fairwater planes have been moved below as in a new design. Also notice that this area here is full of Tomahawk missiles. A tube of 6, I think, or 8, not quite sure, don't quote me. That being said, look what this one is drawing compared to this Los Angeles class. This one being a few tons lighter, not carrying the same amount of missiles because they have no tubes up here.
Did the Queenfish have missiles, Tomahawks?
Yes, yes. USS Aspro. Here is the size. When you look at a submarine on the surface, you only see 1/4 of what's going on. 3.5 decks on, depending on how you want to count it, are below. See that cool shape? Torpedo tube doors. No longer, you can't put them in the front because you have hydrophones. So the torpedo tubes are angled outward, almost midship. That's us. 651. You've seen that recruiting poster. That's our sister ship, the Puffer. Her hull number was 652, meaning she was built at the same shipyard, Newport News, and was the one after us. Now that's leaving Pearl Harbor. Auxiliary seawater going overboard, and you can see the waves. These people looking all professional and military, and they're standing in line. The reason they're standing in line is that this hull is round. It's HY80 steel. There is a paint about 2 feet wide, 2.5 feet wide of non-skid. That rough paint, yeah. They're standing on that because they're not stupid. You get that HY80 steel wet, you're slipping. It's ice. You're going in. And you guys, everybody's like, I want to party in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor's full of sharks. You don't want to fall off. So they're coming in. You can see the top of number 2 scope, and I was talking about it had antennas and ESM equipment, and look how skinny the neck is on the number 1 scope. That was the attack scope.
Would you fly a pennant or something?
Depends on what your mission was, but being back then, when you see these movies of Cold War submarine guys and they've got a chest full of pins, that is the movie. The whole purpose is not to have people know what you did or doing. So we weren't, or the submarine community was not recognized as a whole as much as the surface community, because the ships, you see those.
Can I throw in a real quick story? So
Oh, yeah, we're running out of time, but go ahead.
I was on the Sargo, we made a Westpac. We came back and had a ceremony and everybody got Navy Expeditionary medals. I had no idea why we got these medals.
Oh, yeah.
Until I read the book, Blind Man's Bluff.
Right.
And then it was like, oh,
Yeah, because we were doing that. Did you have a question?
I was on a destroyer, and the crew pulled the destroyer into the dry dock. They didn't drive it, they didn't tie ropes to it. They pulled it.
Oh, really?
How'd they get that in there?
Tugboats.
Tugboat, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the destroyer's not as big as that.
Oh, let's take a look. This is an improved Los Angeles class in dry dock. Notice that the propeller is covered. We started doing that when there were satellites. And we had people taking pictures of our propeller design. So we didn't want that to happen. It doesn't always go our way. 2005, USS San Francisco hit a seamount.
What's a seaman?
Sea mountain.
A sea mount.
Jumped in front of me?
Yes. Come to find out, they didn't have the most up-to-date charts.
Wouldn't they be able to know it's there? I mean, sonar or whatever?
Are we going back to that window thing? No. No windows. I mean,
Well, sonar would know.
sonar. Okay, you guys are watching too much TV. You do not ping with sonar unless you're in trouble. You're giving away your position. So our sonar, the primary purpose of it is to listen. So when you start pinging, hey world, we're over here. Well, you might as well be on our destroyer being, oh, sorry. Yeah, well,
Did anybody get hurt?
yes. Yeah. So this was 2005. Like I said, it doesn't always go our way. But this is how quickly you can die. The submarine attitude, and I can speak for myself and some of my closest shipmates who I still maintain contact with. Tomorrow? Not really worried about it. We were young. We had a job to do. We had bad guys to chase. So we went out there. If we could come back and have a drink, more power to us. But if you go out there and you think that I'm not going to make it back, well, you're in for a world of hurt. They'll be putting you on a stretcher and tying you down and carrying you out the hatch. If you don't trust that person with your life, you'll never sleep. Oh man, John's got the watch and I know he doesn't do that. Oh yeah, you would never sleep. So when you walk on, your job is to get your dolphins. Your job is to learn the boat and prove to everyone else and yourself that you're capable, willing to put it all aside for the boat.
Do you get it after the first cruise?
No, you have to earn them. Nothing is given to you in the submarine community.
What are dolphins?
Dolphins is the submarine insignia, the warfare insignia. So when you see them, you know that that person served his boat with pride. Because the only way, there's no number of cruises. You have 1 year to know the insides and outsides of that boat.
Do they have a ceremony?
Of course. Yep.
So do you have to take a test to get the dolphin?
Yes, numerous tests. Because you're going to be tested in each compartment. You're going to be tested with each subsystem, electrical, I will say plumbing, but hydraulics, reactor control. None of these things you took in school, but you're going to be tested on it because you are going to learn it. And that means you're learning this, there's no need for you to be asleep. You're a new guy without dolphins, don't be caught in bed. You need to be studying.
In '67, I just finished OCS up at Newport, and my best friend was over at Groton. He was in the Navy working an electric boat. So he took me over there, and what I remember is looking down the inside of this huge tube and seeing hundreds of red tags. And I said, "John, what are those red tags?" And he said, "Those are discrepancies." And I thought, gee, if they miss one of those, you might have a problem.
Yes, exactly. You have to trust the shipbuilders. And then when you go to shipyard for maintenance and overhaul, I took the Queenfish, and I was on the Queenfish. I didn't take her because I wasn't captain. So I was on the Queenfish when we went to Bremerton, 81, 82, for minor refit. We're getting a new sonar, we're getting new fire control. Well, you've seen the hatches. None of that stuff is going down there. Hull cuts. 23 hull cuts where they just dissect, cut the submarine open, take off the bad or old equipment, put on new stuff. And then each one of those hull cuts has to be inspected via x-ray, human eye. And then once that's all done, they say, "Yep, we're all done. Go take it out for a spin." Your faith, your trust, that first deep dive, oh man, the entire crew is up. You're listening to every creak, every groan. Is that going to be trouble? You don't know. You take it down to warranty depth, what we call test depth, because you go any deeper, the warranty runs out. So that is extremely scary. You're just waiting for someone to yell, "Flooding in the engine room, flooding in the reactor." You're just waiting to hear it. When you go down 100 feet, there's 44 pounds per square inch of pressure on you, per square inch. 200 feet, 88 pounds. 300 feet, my public school math runs out, but it's a lot. So, when you're cruising around at 500 feet, the ocean's trying to get to you. And you and your shipmates are keeping the ocean out. And then concentrating on what you're doing, whether you're being chased, whether you're chasing. So the movies, Hunt for Red October, the interior shots, completely fake. Okay? Lots of lights and blue and green. But it was the dialogue that set that aside. A very highly accurate dialogue. We're like, they can't say that. That's still secret. Crimson Tide. Oh, yeah, Crimson Tide. Interior shots, completely realistic. Dialogue, fake. But as far as documentaries, Steel Ships and Iron Men, the most accurate. Steel Ships and Iron Men. If you run across it, if you see it being streamed somewhere, it's a great hour of your time. Hanging out at the North Pole. That vent is the exhaust vent for the diesel generator. So yes, the diesel generator can run underwater. And early pictures of the Queenfish. The Pittsburgh is being decommissioned and cut apart. Up there at Puget Sound Shipyard. But this is giving you the diameter, the people tube that's inside. And here's your view inside Electric Boat as a Virginia class is being assembled. Sonar dome, and we're talking the hull cuts. And now you can see exactly, give you some sort of scale of how large the fast attack submarines are, and then even bigger when it comes to the boomers, the Ohio class. These poppet valves, that's how a submarine dives. Underneath, direct opposite, are grates. Just open grates, open to the sea, just grates. You open these poppet valves, the air that is in the main ballast tanks has a place to escape. Now the seawater can fill up those main ballast tanks, allowing the submarine to sink. We looked at the air controls on the ballast control panel. That's how you get to surface, because you're going to blow that water back out that open grate that's on the bottom. So that's basically it for this one. Again, I want to thank everybody for putting up with me, for coming in, thanking the staff here at the museum. I have made some packets that you are more than welcome to take. They have submarine stories, some more details. Of course, there will be some cool pictures of myself with hair. Yeah, collector's items. So anyway, thank you all again. Appreciate it.
I'd like to give you one of our challenge coins for the museum.
Oh, thank you.
For your talk.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Please stick around if you have more questions for Bill.